Good afternoon and welcome into a very special edition of Crunch Time. We have a wonderful, wonderful guest getting ready to join us, and Mr. Lubos Bartecko. We're going to bring him on in just a second, but I want to introduce Tom Franklin because he is now a part of this going forward. It's kind of his inauguration, essentially, into the Crunch Time family. So, Tom, welcome, and I'm excited for this interview, as I know you are as well.
Well, I'm glad on my third official appearance of Crunch Time that the hat trick gets me into the Crunch Time family. I'm glad to be aboard. I'm glad to be a part of this show. Of course, helped out Friday, and then I filled in on an episode, I think like a year ago or so, like something like that. But of course, I know Wags. I've known him since we met doing junior hockey in Chicago in February. And, even though we were at different sites, it was just kind of like, you know what, this guy, he knows this stuff. We have a good rapport. And he became a part of Blue Notes podcast, which is going to be in existence for another 24 hours. And then we officially flipped the switch and we are rebranding. So you'll have to tune into Blue Notes tomorrow to find out what's going on there. That's called a tease in the radio business. I also have the good fortune of working for KMOX Radio here in St. Louis, and Blues Fan Reacts, who is just chiming in here if you're watching the live stream. He is our third wheel on Blue Notes, and he will be a big part of Crunch Time going forward. He's going to help out on some of the back end stuff. You'll see him as a fill-in host now and then. But as you can see behind me, hockey is my first love, all around here. I mean, I got a freaking River Otters banner, Wag. I mean, who in 2021, who has a River Otters banner? Well, I do.
Well, I don't think anybody knows the River Otters existed, but they are a big part of the St. Louis area and a big part of our hockey fandom and our Blues fandom. And we're going to jump. Go ahead.
Thanks for reminding me, by the way, Wags, that there are listeners and watchers that probably were born after the River Otters folded. So thanks for making me feel old.
I'm right there with you. Well, we want to get into this right now because we got him waiting. We have Lubos Bartecko getting ready to join us, and we're thrilled beyond belief to have him on here. Former St. Louis Blues forward, Mr. Bartecko. Sorry about that. Mr. Bartecko, thank you for joining us so very, very much. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing pretty good. Just a little afternoon, dinner time. So just enjoying time with my family.
And we're going to talk about your son here in a little bit because I got some interesting questions I want to ask you about that because he's still kind of young, but he's into hockey as well. But we want to first kind of focus on you and your upbringing. You're born in Czechoslovakia. Obviously, that country had a lot of turmoil and some things that went on, ended up splitting into two countries in 1991. But kind of want to get your understanding of what it was like in that country for you.
I mean, it was very interesting because if I'm looking back and thinking back, how it was back then and compared to what it is now, and then, how it was in the United States, like, when I was growing up, we were in communism, so we didn't really have the opportunity to see, other countries, how they live. They didn't really let us in, to we had 3 channels, channel number 1, channel number 2, and 3, and that's, pretty much it was it. So I couldn't really watch anything else. We were into sports and things like that. Didn't really know much about the NHL. Just had, few posters here and there, but couldn't really do anything about it. But that was normal for me. That was normal for everyone else. And, looking back, I don't really see a problem. We had really good childhood. There was no, cell phones, no electronics. So we spent so much time outside. And that was kind of a plus for me because, I lived in an era where I had so many friends and, played sports, hockey, street hockey, soccer all the time, every day. So that was kind of a, thinking back, that was really good, positive thing for me, and learn a lot about everything else instead of sitting at home and spending time sending snaps and that's it. So it was good, but I'm very fortunate that what I've done with my career. I would say lucky because my career took off when I came over here to North America, and ever since I'm here. So it was pretty good.
Well, and you had a long NHL, just a playing career in general. Your time in the NHL was, relatively short compared to the rest of your experience. But, talking about growing up in, where you were, and, of course, you couldn't just like sit there and flip the channels like us lazy Americans growing up. So what got you into the game of hockey?
I'm sorry, what was that? What got me into the game of hockey?
Yeah,
Well,
did someone introduce you to the sport?
yeah. Well, my dad was a hockey player. He was not a high end hockey player. He played for like a local, like a second league kind of like, he had his job. I didn't grow up, having any money pretty much. He had a normal job. My mom had a normal job. He loved hockey. He played hockey. The hockey was not, a professional. It was just basically, he loved playing. So he was taking me with him all the time. And, I fell kind of into it, not, because I was forced or anything like that, but I was just kind of introduced because he was a hockey player, but he also played soccer. So he was like a multi-sport guy. So I was just kind of like growing up, playing every sport possible, but hockey was something that, I really fell in and started playing just like that. So it was something that I literally, was born into it.
Well, and you said that you didn't get a whole lot of NHL coverage in your country, and you did have posters and things like that. Were there some guys that you looked up to or followed in your youth that kind of helped build your love of hockey as well?
Did we lose you? I think we might have lost him.
Uh-oh. Well, we'll try and get Lubos back with us.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
My mic was not connected. Let me connect my mic again.
Well, we got you now.
It's like going onto the ice without a stick.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm good.
Alrighty, so Wags, go ahead and I guess re-ask your question.
Yeah, so basically, you said you didn't get a whole lot of NHL coverage growing up there, but you did have posters of guys. Were there certain players that you looked up to or followed that kind of helped grow your love of hockey?
Of course. The funny thing is that, I've had one poster of NHL guy that I was looking at every single day when I woke up. He was in my wall right next to my bed, and his name was Brett Hall. And I ended up my first NHL training camp that I went to for tryout. One of the games I got put on. I was on his team. When they divide those, they were divided into 4 teams. So I was on his team, and then one of the games that we played, the preseason games, I was on his line. So I was playing with him. I didn't get to play the NHL games with him because I got sent down. And then the year after, when I was playing for the Blues, he was gone already. But the funny thing is that now he lives in Nashville. That's where I live, and we kind of see each other and communicate. So it's just funny, like how everything connects like that. And I ended up literally playing with him. So that was kind of like, he was the only guy that I had from NHL. I don't know how it just kind of got. I didn't really, I don't remember where I got it, but he was the guy.
Yeah, he was a superstar back in his day, and it was very hard to avoid him. I mean, he was one of those players that definitely transcended the city he played in. So was that how you ended up with the St. Louis Blues? Because you signed with them as an undrafted free agent. So was that why you ended up in St. Louis?
No, well, not why. I went over to Canada, played 2 years major junior in Quebec.
Okay.
And then, I went there as a 19-year-old, and I played as a 20-year-old as an overager. So I was hoping for a draft, but obviously my age was old enough, I would say, and, I didn't get drafted. So, it was kind of disappointing for me, but, that was my goal. But eventually, like, my, agent's like, well, don't worry about it. We'll get you something. So, and then I went back home for the summer, and he called me. He's like, hey, I got your tryout, to St. Louis. Would you be interested? I'm like, of course I'm interested. I don't care if it's St. Louis. Back then, like, I just cared about the opportunity. So it was great because back then, like, we had literally, I think it was like 12 players from Czechoslovakia going there. Like, we had like, I don't know, like Pablo was one of them, but like my friends that we played against each other in the junior league. So it was just kind of really, nice to go there and, be around all these guys. But yeah, I just like, my agent was like, yeah, you're going to St. Louis. I'm like, great. When am I leaving? So then I went there and got to training camp and back to Brett Hall. So like first day I go into my locker room. I tell this story to everyone. I go in and I'm sitting in my stall, right? And then Brett Hall, obviously big superstar, he just walked into his locker room looking at his stall, because he was there. And then he was so nice. He was saying hi to every guy, right? So he's going around the locker room and shaking his hand and he's like, hey, I'm Brett Hall and blah, blah, blah. And he comes to me and he's like, hey, I'm Brett Hall. I'm like, I'm Lubos Bartecko. And he's like looking at me. And then he looks in my, the name tag. He's like, I'm just going to call you Bart because your first name is too hard to pronounce. So ever since, everyone was calling me Bart after that. So he pretty much nicknamed me for my hockey career.
Oh, good. Well, hey, I mean, getting a nickname from Brett Hall probably isn't that bad of a thing as long as it's a good nickname.
Yeah, it was it was good. Like he was so funny. Like literally, he was one of the funniest guys that I can remember.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, and we know that here in St. Louis, and it's always good to hear that from the guys on the inside as well. And with the Blues, you spoke about having fellow countrymen alongside you. You had Pavel Demitra, you had Michael Handzus, you had Ladislav Nagy. How much did having those guys alongside you help with your adjustment to the NHL and to North America?
Oh my gosh, it's huge. Like when you have people that can really support you, it doesn't really necessarily have to be your fellow countrymen or your friends, but you have people that, can support you either way. Like, having Pavel Demitra, he was, I tell everyone, it's just so sad, what happened to him because, he was the guy, I got called up and, when you get called up, you get put into the hotel room, right? You stay in the hotel room until coach decides, or, you kind of are consistent and they'll tell you, okay, you're going to be with us. So you can go find your space, right? You can go find your apartment or house or whatever you want to do. Otherwise, you're staying at the hotel because you never know when you're going to be sent down. And he was the guy. He's like, I was at the hotel for a week, and we just kind of had really, good going. So he knew, I guess, that I'm going to stay there for a while. So he's like, why don't you move in with me so you don't have to go to the hotel and do the same thing? So he's like, and I literally got to know him, and I didn't play with him. He's like, just move in with me and, you'll be fine. And so I moved in with him and I lived with him for 2 months before, Joe Quenneville came up to me and told me that, yeah, you're going to stay here for the rest of the season. You can find your spot. So, things like that are very, to me, that was something that very boosts, your confidence and you're you're feeling good about yourself and about everything else. You're not alone. That it just things like that are very, very important, in your career. So that was really nice.
Well, I know Pavel Demitra remains a favorite among Blues fans. He's one of my favorite, players of all time. I'm proud to wear a Demitra jersey, just because he meant a lot to me when I was in my teenage years, as a St. Louis Blue. And of course, like you and everyone, I mourned when he had that unfortunate plane crash. But it was pretty clear that Pavel Demitra kind of really took the team on his shoulders after Brett Hall left and kind of became that fan favorite. So first of all, describe him as a human being, because I hear nothing but great things about how Pavel Demitra was as a teammate, as a friend, as a human being. And number two, just how underrated was he in this league?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Pavel was I don't think I saw him ever get mad. I don't think he was, pissed off or anything like that. He was always had a smile, always, was joking around, was, friendly with everyone. He never ever showed that, he was a superstar in the league. Wherever we went, it was really tough when, I was hanging out with him. I stayed in this house. So, I was going, to restaurants and everywhere with him. So I was kind of a sidekick, you would say, and going with him everywhere was oh my gosh, Pavel's there, and he never ever turned anything or anybody down, fancy picture and things like that, and anybody need help or anything like that, he was always there, and if he could he would help any way, you can. And, talking like hockey wise, he was one of those guys that he was very much underrated. Like he never really got the status that like a lot of players did, just because, I don't know what was the problem or what was wrong, but, he didn't care. Like he was, he always cared about his team that he plays for, and he wanted to be the best he can be to win the championship, right? Like he was always about like played for, St. Louis Blues. We were always like, going for the win all the time. Like never really, same with national team, like, that kind of, what kind of a leader he was incredible. So it was like, he was a really, really fun guy to be around. And that's what you really look, for when you're, on a team and playing for the Blues those years. The team that we had, it was so incredible that, I look back right now, and if, I go to the Blues games now, where we always we were so tight that like now we still talk, right? So it's just like really nice to see, after all these years that, the friendship and the bond, like never really, like I'm like with Kelly Chase all the time, like, with him, he was like big part, like he was, really nice and helpful for the St. Louis, like, Tony Twist, Jamie Rivers, like all these guys that stayed in St. Louis, like Al McKinnis, Chris Pronger, for example, like Jamie McLennan, oh my God, like he's my favorite, like he was probably the funniest, dudes. And we always talk, like send each other messages here and there. Jamal Mayers was my roomie for 3 years. So it was just like on the road. So like all these guys are so, it's so nice to see. And, it was really nice. Like that team, I'm just really bummed that we had a really, really good run in, regular season, and then just got killed in the first round. It was just really heartbreaking because, I really felt that we could go all the way, but we just didn't. I mean, it's one of those years that maybe, I mean, that was my first playoff. A lot of kids, on our team was their first playoff, experience as well. So it just kind of, maybe we needed that experience or something like that. I don't know, but it was just really, really sad to see that we got, killed in first round or eliminated, because I felt like we had a really, really good, run. And that's where it really, I look back, like Pavel was injured and he was going to play the second round. And I felt that, having him really hurt us, and that's what, that was that piece that really, missed in our team to kind of like get that boost. But, that's the sad, but,
yeah,
it is.
Well, we definitely appreciate you sharing stories of Pavel Demitra, a friend of the program, Mason, chiming in, during your story, and he appreciated you telling that, kind of because Pavel Demitra was kind of an understated figure, in hockey history, and he didn't have the spotlight that Brett Hull had. I mean, I feel like every Blues fan knows everything about Brett Hull. But I wanted to ask you, going back to your fellow countrymen, you were part of the Slovak line, which was a big deal at the time. It was kind of unheard of, like the Russians were all the rage in the 90s, and then all of a sudden here come the Slovaks, you, Hanzus, Nagy, and Demitra. Did that game get you any notoriety or any response back home in Slovakia?
Oh yeah, I mean, going back home and playing just Slovakia is a very small country. Like we didn't have that many players in the NHL. So like we had back then, we had like I think around 23 players or something like that in the NHL. So anyone who was in the NHL was a big deal over there. So whenever I went back home, like we did a lot of stuff that people do here, charity in the summers and things like that. So yes, and once you play, especially with Pavel, who was literally Brett Hull, on steroids in Slovakia, if I would say it like that, like famous sort of. So that was something that it really get you going over there. So yes, we had and still do kind of, but it was kind of nice. But yeah.
Well, and that also led to international success for you guys. I mean, you played in the Olympics, you played in World Championships, you had a lot of success as a country, winning a couple of medals at the World Championships as well. I mean, what was that feeling like? I know you never won a Stanley Cup here in the NHL, but there's definitely something different about playing for your home country. What was that experience like, and the excitement behind those gold medal and silver medal teams?
Oh yeah, I mean, Stanley Cup. That's like something that it's you can't you can't really compare it to the World Championship, for example, right? Because it's something that's like a country. Stanley Cup is Stanley Cup. Like, I'm not gonna tell you guys what that means, but playing for for World Championship, like for Slovakia, winning World Championship or getting a medal, it's like getting Stanley Cup, right? Because it's a country. So like the entire country is celebrating. Like, so, when we won, our first medal, that was, we lost in the finals. That was in 2000. We lost in the finals of Czechs. And that was something really, first that kind of got that, Slovakian hockey going. That was something really big. But then 2 years later, we won the World Championship and got the medal. That was something like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, I've never seen country celebrating, hockey or championship like that. It was incredible. It was like literally Stanley Cup on steroids, because you don't have one city, celebrating, but the entire country. So like whatever city you go to, it's like you're a god, right? So that kind of experience is really nice. It's really something that a lot of young kids are, again, it goes back to, being a role model, like, what you want to do for your country and how you want to lead by an example. And things like that was really interesting to see, like, when kids are coming up and everybody knows your name and just like everybody knows everything about you, when you play hockey, and coming up with the jerseys. And so it's really nice to see, but again, like comparing to Stanley Cup, you can't really compare it. But for Slovakia, that's a Stanley Cup, right? But when you come here, everyone's kind of, it's a World Championship for U.S. because, I mean, every team or every city is, battling for the cup. So that's, it's a different story. But for us as a small country and people that coming from, nothing pretty much, it's a big deal. And, we, I really, look back to my career and it's been nothing but great. And I'm very unfortunate. And I wish that, I tell everyone, I wish that every athlete have experienced, things that I have experienced, especially Olympics, World Championship, and, NHL. I'm not like NHL is, something that's the highest level. So, if you're playing one game or 1,000 games, I mean, once you make it, you're there. So it's really, something that every athlete should experience. And it was great. I enjoyed every ride, but, NHL, it's the highest level. And I tell, now I'm coaching and I tell every kid, like, once you make it, you can't stop. And, being consistent and being, able to sustain that and stay there as long as you can, that's something that, that's achievement that not everybody can do. It's like a pyramid, right? If you're on the top, like there's only few can make it. So, for me, it was a great ride, but, unfortunately, like there was other players, better, younger. So I had to step back and, I did. And I had, awesome career in Europe. I don't regret any of it. So I'm very fortunate. And, now I'm here and brought me to, America. My wife, I met my wife in St. Louis, which, I'm very happy about. So it's good.
Well, and talking about making it, I mean, you had to, make the transition from Europe to major juniors in Canada, and then from Canada to, the NHL and AHL and, the big leagues. So you split some time between Worcester and St. Louis in your first 2 years here. How difficult was it to adjust between, going from, the minors to the NHL? And was there any doubt in your mind that you would make it in the NHL?
I mean, I came here, my goal was, play NHL, obviously.
Sure.
I kind of knew the reality, right? When I started playing the junior league and I played against guys that are, were really good and played in the NHL for a long time. I played with Daniel Briere, right? He was a long time NHLer, and I played with him on the line. I could see his skill level, like it was somewhere else, right? So I just wanted to get, to the camp, and I just wanted to get there and see, like, really if I can do it. And, once I got the invite, I was hoping for a draft, but, oh, well, I didn't really know that drafting, if you're drafted, that doesn't mean anything, right? Because you can be drafted, but there's so many players who got drafted never made it to the NHL, right? So, but for me, it was kind of big deal. Got disappointed, but then I got the camp, and I went to the camp. I remember my first camp. Like I still think about it. Like it was something like you see all these players, and like you're in the NHL, you're playing against the NHL guys, and it was just kind of I had nothing to lose, so I just kind of talk myself like I got nothing to lose. I'm gonna play my best, and I'm gonna play the way I can. I'm not gonna be scared or anything like that. If I'm not gonna make it, I'm gonna go home and I can still play hockey, right? So I was not afraid of making a mistake. I was not afraid. That was the best game I've had. I played all 7 games, preseason games. They know what that means. It was a big deal because if you play 1 game, it's great. You play 2 games, it's really good. 3, oh my gosh. So I played all 7 games. And I was like, kind of like, oh my gosh, I played 7 games. Like, that's too much. Like, I don't want, but I'm like, I just kept going. And, me and Michael Hanzus were one of the last ones to be sent down and got sent down, went to the Worcester. And like 3 days later, my agent's like, hey, they want to offer you, contract. So I'm like, great. So I signed it. I didn't care how much money it was. I literally didn't care. I just wanted a contract. My agent's like, here it is. I didn't ask for any signing bonus or anything like that. I didn't know what that was. They gave me like 30,000 signing bonus, I think, and all the other guys were like 300, 400,000 and things like that. I'm like, I was happy. Like, I'm like, I just got my contract. That's it. Like, that's all I cared, right?
Yeah.
So, got my contract and I was grinding. And right before the first game, I remember, morning skate, going out, one-on-one skating, wide, going down, defenseman turns around, trips me. I fell, hit the board with my shoulder, broke my collarbone, 3 months out. So I'm like, oh, great. There goes my career. I'm like, oh, geez. So after that, just came back, finished the season, came back again, camp, I got sent down, and I was just kind of like, when is I going to, I see all the guys, they're getting called up, and I'm like, oh, I'm not getting anything, but, I'm just like, so I'm grinding, and then my agent called me, and I'm like, I don't know if I can, I don't know if they have space for me. I just would like to go home because if I'm not getting any games, like I want to go home. He's like, just be patient. He's like, be patient, and you're have 1 more year contract. That just finish your contract, and after that, if you finish your contract and you get no traction, then you can go home and we can decide. So I said, okay. So I did that, and then like literally 2 weeks later, played a game. I remember like today again, because those little things you remember. Like it was today your first call up, right? We lost the game. Our coach was super pissed. So we're sitting in the on the bus, and he sits down like really, really pissed off. Like the bus was like super quiet, and I'm sitting there, and he stands up and he's like, "Bart, get over here!" And I'm like, "Oh Jesus!" Like, what's gonna happen? Like I'm like pissed because like had a loss, bad game and things like, and I got I'm walking slowly there, like I'm looking, everyone's like, their big eyes, like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? What is he gonna do? I walk up to him and he's like, what? He's like, tomorrow morning you're flying to St. Louis. You're going. You're gonna play against Washington Capitals. And literally my heart like dropped to my ass. Like literally, I felt like I'm like, is he serious? Like I didn't know what he just said. Right? It's like I'm sorry, what? It's like, yeah, you're flying tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. or something like that, and you're playing tomorrow in St. Louis. And I looked at him and I was like, what just happened? And I went home, and of course it was it was that. So I got and then he didn't say anything. Like they don't tell you, are you going to be there for 1 game? Are you going to be there for 2 games? Are you going to be there for a week? And I'm like, talking to my my teammates. I'm like, what should like? How should I ask him like how long? He's like, no, don't ask him, and just go pack for like a week or so. And if you need something, you'll just buy it, right? Or whatever. So I packed like my 3 suits. So, in case. Got there, play the game. Right after the game, shipped back to Worcester. So it was like one game played, somebody got hurt, went back to Worcester. And then, I think like a week later got called up again. So for the rest of the season, I played like 30 games or something like that, in and out. And after that, I stayed, but it was very interesting. And, but to my point, like, with your hockey career, you just have to be patient. You can't really, want to, things happen overnight. And, to me, like, it just didn't happen overnight. I was kind of like a late bloomer, but that much, it was, I was happier, and it was kind of interesting how, my story was going. So.
Well, and we've got a question from one of our listeners, Mason, definitely a huge friend of the show. And, he asked about your first NHL goal. Obviously, you had that in your fourth game against the LA Kings. He just want to know, what do you remember about your first NHL goal?
Yeah, the funny that you say my first, like, I remember my first call up, my first assist. I do not remember my first NHL goal.
Wow.
That is a fact. Like, I don't know, like, I do not remember how I scored my first goal. And the funny thing is, I don't have my puck.
Whoa.
Whoa.
So I'm like kicking myself. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I don't have my puck. I don't have, and I Google, I watch my goal, and I cannot remember that goal. I cannot remember. I don't know why. I remember all the other things that, and it's just like, for some reason, I'm blacked out. So, yes, I don't remember it.
But you know what? Everything that goes on around it, especially so early in a career too, it almost kind of doesn't surprise me that you wouldn't remember, because like you said, you had a call up for one game, then you get sent back down, then you're called up, and then you score 3 games later. You're just trying to find your footing on a team. So trying to remember something like that, it doesn't surprise me, actually.
Sensory overload.
Oh, yeah. It's just like, I remember my first warm-up, like, I was on the warm-up, had my, stretching, like, I remember that like today. And Richard Zednik, we played against Washington, right? So Richard Zednik, my fellow countryman, Peter Bondra, right? They all kind of like, I'm sitting there, stretching on the ice, and Zed comes out, is like, oh my gosh, Bart, what are you doing here? I'm like, well, I got called up. And, Bondra's like, hey, what are you doing here? I'm like, yeah, I just got called up. So just things like that, like I remember like today. And then my first goal, I remember, I don't even have the fucking puck. So it's just like, like, what the? It's just like, it just kills me, because I don't know.
Well, you play with a great core. You kind of talked a little bit earlier about the President's Trophy winning team and the disappointment of losing in the first round to San Jose. You would play 149 games with the Blues, 26 goals, including that one you didn't remember, and 42 assists. You were a plus 27. Let's go to the summer of 2001. You were traded to Atlanta that year. How much of a shock was that to you at the time?
It was not. I don't think it was a shock. I was kind of suspecting it, that as something was going to happen over the summer. At the trade deadline, we were again. I remember like today, I was with Laddie Nagy when he got traded to Phoenix, right? So
yeah.
That was the trading deadline. We were on a road. I remember where, but sitting or laying in bed, taking a pregame nap. I remember that. Phone rings. And I was just kind of like, I'm getting traded, like I am. So phone rings, I picked it up, and Joe Quinn was like, hey, Bart, is Laddie there? And I'm like, yeah. So I gave it to him, and he got traded, right? So that was just kind of like, okay. And then after the season, I kind of knew something was going to happen, because I didn't have a good season. It was not something that, I envisioned, but it is what it is. Like, if I look back, I would have, done different things. But after the season, went back home, and it happened during the summer, and, they called me. It was like, hey, you got traded to Atlanta. And then, to me, it was just kind of like, oh, great. Like, Atlanta was, not a very good team. So I'm like, it's going to be good. Like, I'll go there. We'll have a good, season, and I'll just kind of jumpstart my career. No, that didn't happen. It was just kind of not a very good situation for me. It was just, I didn't really do what I was supposed to do. And it didn't, I don't know. It was just, it was not a good situation for me hockey wise. And after that, like first year and second year, I signed 2-year contract, and after those 2 years, that was it for me. And I kind of felt that, you know, going and grinding again in the NHL, I had really good offers in Europe, where I was really wanting to kind of go, like play 7 years in Sweden, like really nice career, like great country, really good team. So I really enjoy that. And, I just kind of look back and, I think maybe I should have, given another try and then grind it out for maybe a year or two, or not. Maybe I just, could have, or, I was like, well, or I can go finish my career in Europe, make pretty good money as well, not as good as NHL, but have like comfortable career, be the guy on the team and things like that. So that's the path I chose, and I'm very grateful for that. I had really good run, but I just didn't really want to continue in the NHL, hoping for the best. And I knew there was, other guys that were like really good. So I knew that was it for me. And, I accepted it. And, here we are. I made great friends. I made great relationship, in St. Louis and anywhere else. Like now I'm in Nashville, with there's like a bunch of alumni here, great, group of guys, and we're hanging out. Like, it's really interesting that, like now I'm here with Martin Erat, right? Played in Nashville,
Yep.
Czech guy.
Yep.
Ryan Smith, like Captain Canada, right? Like he was, when I played, he was in Edmonton, like, and then I met him here, and we're coaching together here. His kid plays here. So like I see him every day. Super nice guy. Like those guys, like, and then, JP Dumont played against him in Canada, right? So he's here in Nashville. Then Scotty Nickel, right? He's here, coached with him, coached his sons, for the last 2 years. I mean, Hall Gale is here, right? I mean, so it's just like, you have great communities and you build those relationships. And that's what I tell everyone, like all the players. It's not, just chasing, like, I don't know, the contracts or anything, but like you got to build your relationship. You got to be, have a good reputation, because you never know. Your career is kind of short. So for me, I'm very happy in what I've accomplished so far, and now I'm building a brand new career again.
So was coaching something that was on your mind during your career? I mean, you came back to St. Louis, you coached at DeSmet, you coached at the Blues youth teams, you coached over at McKenzie University. Was that something that was on your mind during your playing days, or was it something that really kind of came to you after you retired?
I didn't really think about coaching after I was going to retire, right? But after I retired, I came to St. Louis, and I really didn't have anything, going on. And my son was playing hockey, obviously. When I was in Europe, and he was playing hockey there, I didn't coach him. I had other coaches coach. Like he was on the teams that obviously I was, still playing. So I didn't really have time to do that. But then I retired. I came home to St. Louis, and, Jamie Rivers, like his sons were playing hockey, and their same birth year. So it was like, Bar, why don't you, coach, help me coach, and, Dominic can play. So that's how I really got started with him. And it was great, great opportunity. But in St. Louis, really one guy who really got me into coaching was Scott Sanderson. He was not a pro guy. He was coaching the St. Louis AAA Blues. He was coaching the U18 level, and somehow he found out that I came home. So he called me. He's like, hey, would you be interested in coaching the U18? And my son was like he was U13, I think, or 12. So I didn't really. So I'm like, yeah, of course. So he got me into youth, coaching, and it was kind of really interesting, because when you get into coaching after playing, like that's a whole different ballgame, And coaching with him, like he was probably one of the best youth coaches I've ever coached with, and he taught me a lot over the 1 year that I coached with him. And after that, he kind of retired because he's been coaching that for a long time. But he was one of the guys that got me into it. And then, I really started liking it. And ever since I, stuck with it. So he was the guy, and he was not a hockey guy. He was not, like I coached with Jamie Rivers, but it just like, Rivs was a different breather. So, but yeah, Scott Sanderson, one of the guys that I really, enjoyed coaching, and he taught me a lot about youth coaching.
And something I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about, your time in McKenzie. I have the luxury of being the PA voice for the hockey program now, and they still talk of you very fondly at McKenzie. And you were there kind of in the program's, I guess, infancy, if you will. It hasn't been around for very long. So what was it like to help build McKenzie's hockey program essentially from the ground up?
I mean, honestly, like, Gary, the head coach, called me again. Is like, hey, if you would want, because I had all the time in the world. When I retired, I had no job, nothing, right? So like I had all the time, and so he's like, called me. He's like, hey, would you be interested, helping me out as a volunteer? I'm like, yeah, of course. So I was going there. It was kind of a long haul for me, for price. Like, you don't have to come for practices, but games and things, just like be part of it. Like, I'm like, yeah, of course. So it was kind of interesting to see, like, that was another level of hockey that kind of like, I got to know. And, the way he was, coaching the team and how, he was approaching the kids. It was, again, learning process for me from those guys, like, him and his assistants. And actually, his assistant now coaches the AAA program in the Blues. And I was actually, I, again, played, the Blues alumni. We have skates every, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And when, my team that I coached last year, the Junior Preds U18, we were at the Nationals in St. Louis. So I brought my stuff and I skated with the boys, right? It was Wednesday and Friday. So, and then Friday he was there skating. So again, go back to, like the relationships and things. So it was really nice to see that. But, it was very interesting, coaching that team. I was not around much, but when I was there, it was good to see all the kids and all the boys, like really, I think I hit it off. Like they were pretty pretty cool about it, because I didn't approach the boys like a coach, but as a teammate, right? So just like trying to be like a teammate and have fun with them and joke and things like that. So it was good.
Now, and being a part of the Blues youth organizations, you've seen a lot of hockey player children come up, and they've been drafted and they're in the NHL now, and your son is playing now. So is he next on the list of former Blues players draftee sons?
I don't know. He is I think he's same as me, kind of like a late bloomer. But he last year he played, not this season, but the season before, when he was, we were here in Nashville. He played the U16 AAA for us, and then I said, like, you're gonna come back here as a U18 and play, and then in Nashville, and then you go, because I think he's a little bit shorter than everyone else, not too short, but like shorter. So physically he's not as big as everyone else is, but mentally and hockey wise, like, he's very smart. He can make plays. He was our top player at the U16 level. So, and I was like, development you can't really rush. And I said, well, you stay here and you'll have one more year and then you go. Like, you're not going into pro hockey tomorrow or next year. You need time. Like, you're 15 years old. And so he was fine with it, and then the summer came last summer. He got drafted to Green Bay USHL. So that was great. Like, we'll go to camp, but I don't think you'll make the team, and you'll come back, and the year after we'll see where you're at and we'll go from there. And then Janesville Jets, which is the NA team, NAHL, called and they offered him tender, and they wanted him to be, part of the team for next season. So I had a really good conversation with, their coach and their GM, and they really liked the way he plays, and they felt that he would be big help for their team. And, they're all about development, because I told them, like, I don't want, him going there and then sit on his butt and, not play or something like that. I'm like, I don't really care about, the status of being a junior player. I just want him to, develop the right way. And they're like, no, they're really nice. And and now I see, he made I asked him, because I don't make the decisions for him. So I asked him, and I told him the pros and cons for it. And, and he's going to have to, he had to make a decision. So And he was like, no, I wanted to go. I felt that I need to go play junior to, develop. And so he went there, and, now he's been playing really well. I think he is a different player than he's right now. And I'm happy with him where he's at. So hopefully he'll have a good career, but all I want from him, and me and my wife are really big on school. So like, he really wants to go to college. I'm like, look, you go to college, you get a degree, and then after that, whatever, you decide to do, you can go. If you're going to be good enough, you go to NHL, you go to pro, you want to play, go to Europe, whatever you want, you're going to decide. Or, you're going to have a degree and then you can do whatever you want. But if you're going to just focus on hockey, I can't really tell you right now, I'm going to be real with you. I can't really tell you what you're going to do. I did that, and I was one of, not many to be fortunate enough to, pay my bills, playing hockey. And I wish now I look back that I went to college. So.
Did we lose him again?
Oh, I hope his mic didn't come undone again.
Check your mic, Lubos. All right, we're still working to get Lubos back here on the stream. Lubos, if you could check your mic. That was the issue the first time. Hopefully it's just that, not a connection issue.
Hopefully not, but it is Nashville, so you never know.
Yeah, you wonder about the infrastructure in Nashville. That's a long-running gag here. But, of course, we're talking with former St. Louis Blue Lubos Bartecko as he works to get reconnected with us, former St. Louis Blue, former Atlanta Thrasher, and he just dropped off. Hopefully he comes back on here in just a little bit. But very interesting stories that we're hearing from him. I mean, of course, we kind of joked around beforehand that, hockey players, a lot of them can be more reserved, a little bit more professional. But we are getting a great insight into life as not just an NHL player, but as someone growing up in Europe in the 90s when, maybe the game wasn't as established as it is now. Maybe it was just different back then. And this has been a very enlightening interview, Wags.
It really has. Just the fact that the one poster of an NHL player he had on the wall was Brett Hall, and it just so happens he ends up in St. Louis. He gets to be in training camp with Brett Hall, plays on a line on him during training camp. Like those are the things that just are incredible, and I think we were able to get him back now. Lubos, are you back with us?
Yeah. I don't know. My phone for some reason just went black, and it says, "Cool your phone down." It was like super hot, I guess. I don't know.
Oh man, all this hot hockey talk here, maybe overloading your phone. All right, so you mentioned.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, yes. I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Hold on. I gotta turn the mic on.
I can hear you. Okay, can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear us? All right, still cannot hear us. I wonder if we have stressed out his phone too much.
Lots and lots of hockey talk for sure.
I have to figure out how to hear you.
Hopefully you got some headphones or something like that.
Mic.
Someday StreamYard is going to perfect the ability to do these on cell phones someday, and it's going to be great.
It certainly is.
I've run into my issues trying to do this on phone via StreamYard.
Hello?
Hey, Lubos, can you hear us? Still cannot hear us yet.
I honestly can't hear you.
Okay. No worries. No worries. We're good. I think
so
we
guys
go
are
ahead
on mute.
Says we're on mute. Huh.
And all right. So now he's on. Now you're not on mute. Can you hear us yet?
That's weird. Yeah, I tried muting myself to see if there was any correlation.
Yeah,
he'll drop out once, so we'll try and get him back on one more time.
Yeah, we'll give him another chance here. Unlike the NHL, we give more than one chance. So, but it just that story about Brett Hall just blows your mind.
All right, I can hear you now.
Oh yes,
we are back. Glad to have you back aboard. Isn't technology grand?
Oh my gosh, that's why I said when I was in my early young years, no phone, nothing. It was the best time. Nobody could get hold of me. Nobody could get hold of me, and I was, in my own time. So,
well, I want to kind of get back to your time coaching, and you mentioned at the start of this interview that your dad was an influence for you getting into the game of hockey. He was a player himself, and now you're, I guess, passing the torch down to your son, if you will. So, just what is it like, coming from your background and knowing how much your dad influenced you, that you're now coaching your son?
It's funny because it's like looking in the mirror. And when I was my son's age and my dad was trying to tell me stuff and I was like, you don't know anything. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And now it's the same thing, right? So especially now when he's getting older, and like nowadays those kids are super skilled. So it's like, I can't even keep up with them, right? But it's funny, like, you don't know anything. So I'm like, yes, I do. But, it's the same thing kind of. But, now it's just a little bit different because, the way I was raised is kind of different than what, kids are raised, and like how, I'm trying to approach my son. And it's interesting what the comparison is, with everyone else. So it just, for me, it was, it's just kind of right now he's gone. So I'm trying to be a parent. That's all I'm trying to be. Right. So I looked and for his development, like I want to be as much there as I can as a hockey coach, but at the same time, I don't want to interfere with, his development, and, he's coached by somebody else. So right now it's just kind of interesting that I'm trying to build that relationship back, because when he was here and I was coaching, it was like literally I was, really hard on him, and you know how it is, just like being really hard, and we would come home and I would still be pissed at him. And now I'm thinking, like, what was I doing? Like, first of all, he was young. Like now I coach differently. Right now I'm coaching way differently than when I started, right? So I'm like, they're kids, right? So they just want to be taught like how to play hockey. Like, they don't know how to play hockey. They're not professionals, even at the pro level, you have to, teach a thing or two right there. But, so right now I'm just kind of like, he's gone, and I'm trying to see, and I'm, like I said, building the relationship. And if he needs help, I'm there to help him. But, coaching is just like, I'm not coach anymore. Like, I'm trying to teach him, things that I see on a video. Obviously, I watch every game that he plays, and, I'm not trying to interfere with his style or like anything like that. I'm just trying to help him with his skill level, like where he needs to be and what, things like that. So it's kind of interesting that, to see, how I kind of, I look back and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, thinking to myself, like, and, that goes to all the coaches. Like, it's just coaching the kids. First of all, they need to have fun. Like, they need to come to practice. They need to come to the game, and they need to have fun. If they don't have fun, they will never develop. They will never get better, because they will pack it in, and then one day it's like a ticking bomb, right? Like, they're hating, and then all of a sudden they're like, I'm done, right? And that was the problem with, like, I have a twin brother, right? And he was playing hockey with me, and my dad was super aggressive, like super, like always negative, right? Like everything was bad. And then one day he came in where I think he were like 15 or 14, and he brought his equipment home and he tossed it on the floor. And he's like, I'm done. I don't want to play hockey anymore. He walked away from it, and he loved the game. he just was done, right? Because all that stuff. So, after like a few years that I was coaching, I was trying to, get the best out of him. But then I was just kind of like looking at myself and I'm like, that's not the way to do it. Like, they're not pros. They don't get paid. So it was very interesting to see, like, you learn every single day. And, those guys like, Scott Sanderson, and last year I coached with U18, Steve Jennings, and same thing. Super, super good, with the youth and development and like how to approach the kids and like what to do. So it just, it was very interesting. And now it's like, with my son, it's like, I'm trying to find or get back those years that, like be a dad. And that's, that's what we actually have to do. So it's very interesting.
It is very, very interesting. And Lubos, we've taken up a lot of your time tonight, and I know it is dinner time. It's definitely dinner time for me as well. But one final thing we want, Mason chimed in once again, kind of wanted to see it end on a light note. Funniest locker room story that you were a part of?
Oh my gosh.
And it doesn't have to be clean either.
Well, let me tell you, like, okay, if you're in the locker room, there's every single day something. So every single day there's some funny, but like I don't know, like what kind of locker room story you want to hear.
Oh God.
Like, I'm telling you,
pick one.
Like, Blues locker room that, I was part of, the 99, 98, like Mark Bergevin, Jeff Courtnall, like those guys were like talking about funny, and there's like a whole another level of funny. Like, they were somewhere else. Like, it was every day. It was you always left with something. It was so funny. But on top of like, they would always like Mark Bergevin was the funniest guy I've ever like played with. Like, he was always, doing stuff and like pranking guys and stuff like that. But so when I was, playing the Blues, it always like a guys who get called up, right? They would always mess with them, right? So there was one Russian guy that got called up, right? We're going on the warm up. His first game, or like first game in the NHL, right? Got called up, came from Worcester, comes in, makes his 3 sticks for the game, right? No, 4 sticks. 3 sticks were his backups. So he, he goes out and warm up. They would take all of his sticks and then cut the bottom sticks just enough for him to kind of go out, right? So, and you see, like, it's normal stick, but you cut the stick enough where, you can kind of take it out on the warm up. It's not going to just fly out, but you take it one shot and it's broken, right? So all 4 sticks cut, right? So takes the first stick, goes out, warm up, zit, all 4 sticks broken, right? So Russian guy, pissed off, right? Whatever. After that, goes back to the game, finished the game. He got sent down. So every time you get sent down, you have your hockey bag in front of you, right? So, and then you pack your stuff and you take your hockey bag and you bring it to your hotel, back to the airport, and then where. So you have to carry it, right? So he packs his stuff, right? He goes in the shower. They load up his bag with the dumbbells. So extra heavy stuff. They load up his bag with dumbbells. So he carries the bag to his car. Then you don't open the bag, right? So like they put all that stuff and then the next day he gets to Worcester, right? And then they're packing his stuff, and then the trainers call back, laughing their asses off, like, what did you guys do? So, and he's opening the bag, and there's like one dumbbell, 25 pounds, and then there's another one. So it's like, I think like 75 pounds or something like that, dumbbells in his. So it was so funny, like, pranking, and they would always prank us as Europeans, and it was so funny. But I took it as a joke. Like, I never really, you don't get mad or anything like that, but it was just so funny. Like, and yeah, but yeah, I think that one just kind of stands out, but there were so many other ones as well. So,
well, just the fact that, you don't recognize that there's 75 pounds extra of weight in your bag, and you take it with you.
I know and then the bag is so heavy, and it's just like, but it is what it is.
It's all fun and games. It's all fun and games.
Oh, yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
Well, Lubos, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out today to talk with us. It's been a blast. We got a lot of great insight into your life, your career, hockey in general, and we just could not be more thankful for you taking the time out today.
Oh, yeah, it was great. I always enjoy talking about my past and about the hockey and I believe that fans love to hear that. So why not share good things with them and talking with you guys. It was great and I really enjoyed it. So I would love to do it again anytime.
And I can at least say that, both Wags and I have something in common with you. We also had Brett Hull posters in our bedrooms growing up. So
there you go. Maybe we can get him on.
Yes.
If only. If you can put in a good word, with him, since you're down there in Nashville, please do. That would be an excellent. That would be the best assist of your career.
Oh yeah. I'll try to do that. He's super funny on the back right now. So he does whatever.
Oh, well, that's awesome. Well, Lubos Bartecko, once again, thank you for joining us. We could not be more thankful for it. Make sure you guys come back later tonight for Crunch Time Nightly as we'll recap the day in sports. For Tom Franklin, I am Wags. Thank you for joining us and have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, guys.